And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
It's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. But to do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Welcome, everyone, to the University of Logic, better known as Cristiano's Conservatory, correcting convoluted conversations. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano. You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ, and welcome. Well, today I am disturbed.
You're always disturbed.
Well, that's another story. I just can't. You know what? I have decided. I've come to the conclusion. Not decided. I have come to the conclusion. I will never die.
What?
I will never die. Never happen. It can't happen.
How can you not ever die? That's the
because
big question.
I am so aggravated. There is so much unfinished business. I am so aggravated with this country and what it has turned into me. They need me.
So you'll live forever?
Oh, no, I'll die, but I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back, and I'll be here anyway. I'll be dead.
But how will you do that?
Well, I'll be a zombie. But but you don't say I'll be a good zombie, you see?
Oh, now, what is a good zombie versus a bad zombie?
Well, a good zombie has meaning and purpose. Now, my staff, for example, they're a bunch of zombies. They're bad zombies. They're gone. Right.
Are we going to stand for that?
I resemble that remark.
Well, just saying, that's nothing wrong. I mean, I pay them $1 a day. They should be happy. They're overpaid. I know that I'm generous. What can I tell you?
Yeah, gosh, we're taking it to the bank every week, Joe.
Yeah. Well, you ever notice when you see zombies on television?
Yeah.
Their eyes are up in the air and they're going. Well, that's the way my staff is. Every time I come up with a suggestion.
That sound effects from your staff.
You got it. Exactly. You know, every time I come up with a suggestion, what do you think my staff does? They roll their eyes and go, oh, here he goes again. They've got to be zombies, right?
I see. That's
but
how
they're
you come in.
already zombies. I'm going to be a zombie. I'm going to be a good zombie.
Well, I just can't figure out whether it's better to be a zombie or a clown.
Yeah.
Well, they're clown zombies, actually. Yeah. Now,
that's even worse.
That's a new breed.
You wonder.
God.
I know you wonder. You wonder, how will I protect myself physically from zombies, right?
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Well, see, I have an official zombie knife.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I do. I wrote this here before.
Getting that on camera, Gary?
Yeah, show that.
Yeah, let's get a
make
picture
sure Gary
of this.
gets that on camera.
It's very expensive. Cost me a fortune. The only time I touched this thing, I bled for 3 days. I'm not telling you, it's so sharp. Look at this thing. Here we go.
That's beautiful.
It's an official zombie knife. Now, you can get a zombie knife over at the Green Beetle, I believe.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
you can
they
get
sell
actually
all
a
sorts
better
of
zombie
anti-zombie
knife than
stuff.
that one that you got.
Yeah.
All kinds of great knives.
Oh, they have the best
Do they
knives.
sell that shirt you're wearing, Zombies R Us?
No, that they have to get from me.
Oh,
but, Gary, they have this little head flashlight that I have on here. See?
You see that?
Let me see.
Okay, flip the camera around. I went in there today, Joe, actually, and they said that I got a 15% discount at Green Beetle on Phoenix flashlights because I was a Liberty Talk listener.
I'm surprised they didn't give it to you for free.
Yeah. Great folks there at Green Beetle. If you haven't been by there
They're
yet.
terrific. They're
Yeah,
terrific.
you haven't been by there
Everything
yet.
they have is fantastic.
81st Memorial.
We got guests.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah, we do
yeah.
have a couple of guests today, and we'll be introducing them in a second because you've preempted me
Yeah.
now, and you've
Don't
screwed the
step
whole
on
thing
Joe,
up. I
please.
want you to know that, okay? All right. We got to finish this zombie. And I'll say, you see, as long as I'm a zombie, I can continue to go on and carry the banner, which no one is carrying.
Well, that's
Right.
that's
Let me
kind of
tell
your
you.
mantra.
I want to explain why. This is very important that I be
please.
a zombie, all right? Now, you know, I tend to repeat myself, and then when I go home and then I get calls and whatever they go, but you've said that before. Why do you repeat yourself? I hate that. If you're going to say that, stay home. Don't dial the phone, whatever you know, dial your iPhone or
Yeah,
whatever.
but people usually have to hear things 3 times for it to sink in.
But the point being is that that's the problem with our system today. What happens is that somebody does something really bad, really wrong, and it's a big issue, right? And then a week later, it's a minor issue. 2 weeks later, it's forgotten, and we go on.
Yeah.
And where is the press? Where is the press saying, hey, this is bad stuff, and they hammer at it, and they hammer at it, and they hammer the politicians for what they've done, and they don't let loose until it's corrected?
Like a
nowhere.
turtle, yeah.
They are nowhere. Now, they're all bad zombies. Every prostitute's a bad zombie. Now,
prostitutes.
One of my friends, Peter Schiff. Right?
Okay, I know
Now,
Peter.
he knows how to do it. What he does, for example, he plays the what's her name? The
gosh,
I know her, but and I can't
on the
think
tip
of
of my tongue.
You know, she used to be the Speaker of the House. What's her name? Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi. Yeah.
When she said what? She said, we have to pass the bill so we can find out what's in it. And what he does is so that we never forget the stupidity of our Congress. Every one of his programs, I subscribe to his premium service. Every one of his programs, he plays that. It's a reminder. And my point being is that if we had a press that was for the people, they, in fact, would be playing that before every program. But with that, they would be playing one of my favorite, the one action that our government took that's probably up in the top 10 that have destroyed this country. And here it is. And I've said this again. Please don't call me and say, you've said that before. I don't want to hear that, all right? Remember, I have a zombie knife.
You have a zombie knife, and it'll cut you.
Yeah. And this is from my favorite president, President Richard Milhouse Nixon. Can you imagine Milhouse? We knew there's a problem with a name like Milhouse, didn't we? He says, I have directed. He has never directed a thing. He couldn't direct himself to the bathroom.
Everybody else directed.
I have directed Secretary Connolly to suspend temporarily the convertibility of dollar into gold and other reserve assets except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability, whatever that was supposed to mean to that Jughead,
exactly.
right? And in the best interest of the United States. Wait a minute. What about my best interest, right? And now that took us off the gold standard, and he lied. Everything in that was a lie. And here we are 43 years later, right? And we're living with the same lie. Has this ever been brought up the day after he said it by the press?
No.
Never.
No.
Is it brought up here on Liberty Talk Radio?
Yes.
Featured on 1170 KFAQ? You bet it will. And I'm going to say it every single program until everyone has it memorized and everyone gets as hacked off as I am. All right? And then they can all join the zombie parade.
There
now,
you go.
I got a new. All right, we got a new one. And the new one is the one I said last week, and I'm going to repeat this one.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen.
I taught constitutional law for 10 years, which, you want to know something? I debate that because I know people who went to school with him, friends of mine who went to school with him, and guess what they said?
Nada.
Never met him. In his class.
You're talking about Obama.
Obama.
That's the
Senator.
Name. That's,
But it was Senator Obama at the time.
Yeah, that's right. It was Senator Obama. I take the Constitution very seriously. Lie number 2. The biggest problem that we are facing right now is that we have to deal with George Bush. True, all right, to bring more and more power into the executive branch and not go through Congress at all. And that is what I intend to reverse when I'm president every day.
That's a lie.
Every day. Now, this guy,
my.
I thought George Bush, really went way off the deep end. I couldn't wait for this guy. Godzilla would have been a godsend compared to this guy, right? So when Obama came in, and let me be honest with you, and I'm not, I'm not a Democrat at all.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I actually felt a sense of relief, saying we finally got rid of the Bush, Cheney, whatever. I would have bet real heavy money, like thousands of dollars, cash on the line, that Obama, even if he tried, could not have been as bad as Bush, and he's worse.
Oh, he's Trump Bush so bad.
He's Trump Bush. But my point being is that why aren't we playing that every single day? The problem we have with our political system, we're going to go to break and then have our guest. We have 3 minutes. The problem we have with our political system is this, is that the voter has no way of taking revenge on the people that they put in office. Really. And I say revenge. When I say revenge, I mean voting them out of office. I don't mean, doing it physical.
I don't even think they have the tools.
They have nothing.
They have no
Once
tools.
they're in office, they're in, period. You can't prime out under very, very rare situations. So you have politicians who constantly lie, cheat, and steal, and they all do. Primarily, they all do. And then when they're in office and you say, man, this guy's a real bum.
Got to get him out.
What happened? We got to get him out. There's no tools with which to remove the person. The voter has, you can say referendum and all this. It goes through committee. Never, ever happens. And then stuff that we're talking about here goes in the archives, never to be heard again.
Biggest problem suppressed.
I cannot die. God told me I cannot die. God told me that. That was my wife, actually, But I cannot, because I bring this up time after time. I'm a surrogate of Peter Schiff, basically. Okay?
It's because the press, Joe. It's because the press doesn't say anything. That's our big problem.
We have no
tools.
I mean,
the people.
Well, it's all about
entertainment.
Public,
there's no informed public.
Yeah, it really is. I hope I make this entertaining, but there's a serious message there.
Well, sure it is.
Right, are we up to break now?
Yeah, we're just about ready. You want to go?
Why don't we go to break and then we'll introduce our guest?
All right, let's do that.
Folks, it is our responsibility to support those people who support us. There are very few out there. Our numbers are growing. But if we don't support those people who support us, this whole movement will fall apart. And believe it or not, that includes our sponsors, the Green Beetle and McCool Firearms and Ranch Acres Audiology. And who else do we have? I'm sorry.
Joe, we're really growing. I was just looking at the stats on our app. We have almost 1,000 people now.
And also
to our app, and we only mentioned it 1 or 2 times.
And also, you got to like Liberty Talk on Facebook because Gary, you posted last week's program on there, and I
saw you watched it.
Yeah, and I shared it with a lot of friends too.
Cool.
So Facebook app too.
Yeah.
Facebook,
I went to McCool Firearms just last week. Had a problem on a new gun, my 380, my 380 single action. Yeah, beautiful gun.
What kind of? Yeah.
A 380, a 6 hours, 238. Love it, And it was pinching my finger.
Yeah,
they investigated. They found out there was nothing wrong with it, but they filed down the trigger. It was like
he just
trigger.
did it no charge.
No charge. Came out, fires beautifully. But I mean, these guys are guys you can go to, talk to. McCool's Firearms.
They don't talk down to you or make you feel funny.
Support them, and when you go there, just say, Liberty Talk Radio said, I better come here because the zombies will be after me if I don't.
And you know what? Speaking of zombies, Joe, Green Beetle, like I said before, I went there today and took my stepson Zach with me. They are so nice there, and they have all the survivalist gear, a great selection of knives, all kinds of equipment. And once again, they're the type of people that will not make you feel stupid. You can't ask them.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
81st Memorial, they're next to Fat Guy's Burgers.
Yeah, and I just recently bought the freeze-dried food.
Oh, yeah, it's delicious.
I bought the spaghetti and meatballs. I was going to go. I want to make sure I'm taking care of it. Anyway, all right, folks.
Let's introduce these lovely.
Hey, we have our guest here.
And we have two of them on the phone that are ready anytime you're ready.
Okay. With us today, we have the people from the officers, actually, from the Drug Policy Reform Network of Oklahoma. Seat number 1, the hot seat number 1 is Lisa Bowman, and she's the president. We have Joanna Francisco, and she is the secretary. And on the line, we have Dax Eubanks and Jeff Pickens, right? And they're board members. Am I correct?
Yes.
I got that right. And I'm not going to tell you anything about the organization because I'm going to leave that to Lisa. Lisa, tell us all about your organization and what you're doing.
Okay. Thanks, Joe, for having us. We really appreciate it. The Drug Policy Reform Network of Oklahoma serves the public through activism based on concepts of freedom and liberty. It was founded in 1999 by a group of concerned citizens seeking to open up discussion for alternatives to current drug policy. Our main mission and goal is to educate, inform, and engage in dialogue regarding drug policy, the failed war on drugs, and infringements on our basic rights. I've been an activist for nearly 3 years. I'm very passionate about this particular issue, the cannabis prohibition, because prohibition is a human rights violation. My eyes were open to the widespread corruption that the war on drugs is, and I wanted to do something. It has been a frustrating, rewarding, and educational experience. With each new challenge, I become more resolved and committed to changing drug policy in Oklahoma. By chance, I saw that the Drug Policy Reform Network was having their annual meeting here in Tulsa, and I told a couple of my friends about it, Joanna included. We all showed up. We got elected to the board, and ultimately I was elected as president and Joanna secretary. We brought a new energy to the group. It was a conservative one, a truly conservative one. The party labels and lines have been dissipated as we created new alliances, where the main issue is the right of individuals to treat themselves in a manner they choose and not be criminalized by doing so. Everyone has the right to make their own health decisions, whether that be to use cannabis to treat illness, pain, disorders, or to relax with it, like one would a glass of wine. Legislators should not be dictating such things, and this is why I got involved.
Okay, very good. You have any comments you want to make, Joanna?
Sure. I got involved because I was just curious about the I'm not an expert at all in cannabis. I was just learning the history of it when I attended the hearing at the Capitol on the medicinal cannabis bill back in November. And I just heard testimony from patients and potential patients who are stuck in Oklahoma and are essentially trapped by Oklahoma's prohibitive laws. But also we did hear from people who had moved from Oklahoma to Colorado where their children were receiving treatment and there was much success.
Great. Okay. All right. Now, is your focus strictly on the marijuana issue basically at this point in time, or are we talking about all drugs?
Well, marijuana is the current issue right now.
Right.
It's the one with a lot of energy. The difference between cannabis and other drugs is cannabis is a Schedule I narcotic, and it should not be labeled so. Where cocaine and heroin and the other drugs are, and they're considered dangerous. Marijuana is not dangerous. No one has ever died from it, and it actually has medicinal properties as well. And I think that's why it has gained so much momentum right now. Before the 20th century, there was cannabis freedom. You could go to the store and buy products like you could aspirin. It was a home remedy. But we're working on over 100 years of reefer madness that we have to chip through. I think this is probably just the beginning, because it's really about individual rights.
Why do you think that we progressed to where we are now from being a country free to smoke marijuana to one in which now you can spend half your life in jail for smoking marijuana or whatever I guess depends on how much you have, whether you're a pusher or what they call a pusher or so selling it. Why do you think that occurred? What do you think the impetus behind that was?
The federal government.
I know, but why?
Because
the federal government does something. There's always a reason, and it's not for your own good. So there's got to be a reason for that.
It always comes down to money and power. So, the more power they have, the less rights we have. We still have those rights, but it's just illegal to exercise them.
It supports them in their bureaucracies, and they've created so many bureaucracies because of this. There's even some racism behind it because some of the leaders then thought this was, that white women would want to contort with
words.
Yes, I am. With Mexicans and blacks, and those were the words that they used. But it grew. It turned into a revenue generator as well. And then when you get the pharmaceuticals companies involved too, well, it's in their interest that people don't have access to something that grows freely and that they could even make in their own home.
When did marijuana become illegal or a Class 1 drug?
It was scheduled a Class 1 in 1970. It was the Controlled Substances Act in 1970.
But before then, it was legal, or was it just...
It wasn't considered a narcotic. It started in 1906 with the Pure Food and Drug Act. They considered cannabis a poison. The Harrison Act of 1914 gave federal control over narcotics, but it was really just a revenue generator. In 1929, the Farm Act classified Indian hemp as a narcotic. The Uniform State Narcotic Act happened between 25 and 32, where all states adopted cannabis regulation. In 1930, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics was formed. the federal, well, an Anslinger, he launched a Reefer Madness campaign. Despite
the old movie, the old Reefer Madness movie.
Yeah, and ads. He put out ads, depicting young people smoking marijuana and doing all these horrible things, hurting themselves, and committing crime and killing other people.
I always thought that,
like Zach said, dancing and playing music.
How to play it.
Yeah,
Don't you think alcohol?
I've heard people say smoke marijuana, you'll turn into Cristiano.
Oh, God. We have to ban it now.
All right, now, Dax, are you on the line? Dax?
I can't hear him.
Dax, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I am on the line.
I can't hear you, Dax. Either you got a bad phone, or you're not speaking into the phone, or you're not turned up, or something like that, because you're not an issue right now. Can you?
Can you hear me?
That's better. Okay, keep on going.
Okay.
Okay, what's your take on this?
For me, I was always kind of sit in the background, and kind of marijuana was always kind of one of those people kind of issues for me. I didn't really care one way or the other until I started to see, really when I started to see the children that were suffering and the medicinal benefits that the drug has for them. And the further I dug into the issue after that, I realized that nothing about marijuana prohibition is what we've been told or what we've grown up to believe about it. The whole thing is corrupt to its core. And we have children in Oklahoma suffering and dying right now simply because of these laws. And I don't think good people and moral people, if they really knew the truth behind it, would stand for it at all.
Yeah, Dax, I want to hear what you have to say. You're coming across, you're coming through very raspy and trebly. And I was just wondering, if you're on a cell phone, do you have a landline that you can call back on so we have a clearer voice?
Okay, I'll try to do that.
Please do that. All right, thank you very much. Now, you said that cannabis is a Category 1 narcotic?
It's a Schedule 1.
Schedule 1, okay. So what are cigarettes?
I don't know. It's
illegal.
No. I mean, if cigarettes, it's got to be a category something because it's a narcotic.
Right.
We don't know.
It's a plant.
It's the same as, there's no difference between the tobacco leaf and the marijuana leaf.
You haven't smoked any marijuana.
No, I know there's a yes. But when you smoke, when you smoke a cigarette, especially when you're a new
first
smoker,
time,
you get
dizzy.
wacky,
Yeah, but that wears off. It doesn't with marijuana.
I know that. Now,
Maybe they have more powerful lobbyists.
Yeah. Well, what about alcohol? Is alcohol a Schedule 1?
No, because Schedule 1 it's legal or illegal, controlled. I don't.
Yeah, that's just the name they give it.
Right.
Oh, okay. So it's
a category.
It's
throw it in a category.
Right, like cocaine, heroin, meth. Those are considered.
What do they schedule? They schedule what? What's cocaine?
They're Schedule 1.
I see. It's a schedule that the government has. Schedule 1. They list them all.
And then they have a Schedule 2 probably or something else.
All right, because I wanted to start from the bottom and work my way up. Okay, all right. Now, what kind of headway? What are you doing specifically? Well, hold on. How much time do we have before
we
we
got
break?
1 minute.
Okay. Within 30 seconds or so, what's the one thing that you're doing that's moving this forward?
Okay. Well, right now there are some local petition initiatives working on decriminalization within the cities. So we're focusing a lot of energy into that. Right now we're trying to build up our membership to help fund some other campaigns where we could use the media, TV, ads, boots on the ground.
When we come back, I'm going to pose some of the questions that have been sent to me, and some of them are hardcore. We're going to see where we go with that. We have a hard break here. Don't go away. This is Liberty Talk Radio. Stay with us. Let's go to break. We have with us the officers from the Drug Policy Reform Network of Oklahoma. That's Lisa Bauman, Joanne Francisco, who are right here at the studio. We have Jess Pickens and Dax Eubanks both on the line. So we have 4 people, and they're ganging up on us, folks. So call in with your questions. 855-866-1170 right here on Liberty Talk Radio with host Joe Cristiano on 1170 KFAQ. Okay. Boy, one question that I always have is that what difference does it make if we are going to legalize marijuana? Why don't we legalize everything? I mean, if we're talking about freedom, I mean, who makes the decision to whether or not I want to take crack cocaine, whether it be regular cigarettes, whether it be e-cigarettes or marijuana or whatever? Why that? Why one and not the other?
That should be your decision. Yes,
yeah,
Doug.
it should. But the economist Milton Friedman, he made the argument that a lot of those harder drugs like crack or meth probably wouldn't even exist if marijuana prohibition hadn't taken place, because those drugs were invented because they were harder to interdict than marijuana, and the market basically responded to prohibition with those harder drugs. So in some respects, legalizing everything, you would think it might have an increase in those harder drug use, but in fact, people want marijuana, and if they can have that, something that they know is safe, something that they know the effects of, they're not going to opt for a more dangerous substance.
Yeah, well, I would assume. Let me give you my unqualified comment, and that is, once you make something legal, it loses all of its desirability. You know, if there's no monetary incentive for me to sell you something, I'm not going to waste my time selling. I'll sell a car, or I'll sell vacuum cleaners if I'm going to make some money. But I can't make much money selling vacuum cleaners. But boy, I can make a fortune selling drugs, and that gives me an incentive to push it. And there are ways of doing that. Anyway, but that's my take on it. What the heck do I know? I have a comment here. Someone wrote us an email, and he said, "Please don't use my name, and I'll honor that." Yeah, cool. It was a good email, and pretty critical though. It said the reason marijuana is illegal is because it's a psychoactive drug. Let's use the word drunk. He said, do we feel our families, our students, workplaces, society would be better off with people going to work drunk? You know, I've been to Russia, people staggering around, you know, because, by the way, in Russia, it's vodka is the big problem there, you know, and people are just walking around drunk on vodka. He's absolutely right. Instead of smoking tobacco at lunch, do we want workers getting drunk on weed? Do we want more people graduating, you know, from one to the other, et cetera, et cetera? Well, you see where he's going. He's saying that you make it legal, and then a guy says, yeah, let's take a break, and we'll smoke a weed and get high and all this other stuff. Then the guy gets back on the machinery and whatever, and he cuts his arm off or somebody else's arm off. How do you respond to that?
Well, how do we currently respond whenever people go and have a drink at lunch and then come back to work? Because I believe it happens every day.
It does, yeah. Right, it does. In fact, I can tell you, there was a fella, Al. His name was Al. He worked for my father's factory back in Harlem, and he was a confirmed alcoholic. And he was in a bad mood all morning. He would go to the bar at lunch, just drink himself silly, come back in a good mood because he was drunk. He was a good worker. His work was the same, but his attitude was different, you know. But he was a kind of scary guy.
Yeah, but I think today when somebody comes back to work and they're drunk, I'm an employer. I'd send them home. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, and if they came back smelling the marijuana and they were like glazed over and they were high, I'd send them home. Either way,
but does marijuana do that?
Don't go to work.
It does. Does marijuana make you less more of a risk when you take it when you're working? If you're a forklift driver,
well, it depends on what your job is.
Like a forklift driver.
Well, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't drive. Would you drive after drinking? I wouldn't.
You know, workplace or driving has nothing to do with it. You know, those are, I think, auxiliary.
Well, I mean, I think this is what the guy's addressing in his mind. He's saying, hey, you know, guy comes back from lunch or his break, smoked a weed, comes back, gets back on the fork truck or whatever, and, you know, all of a sudden the fork truck forks are right through a guy's chest. And he goes, hey, sounds good to me.
Simple, you're firing.
No, I mean, how do you, that's his question. How do you respond to that?
That implies that people don't have common sense.
Well, I know he's on weed. Well, there's no common sense. He's on weed.
No.
Well, there's people that do that, though, Joe. There are people that drink responsibly. There's a thing of drinking responsibly. I think smoking pot responsibly is the same thing.
Oh, okay. No, I agree with that. But I'm just saying we have to address what this guy's saying.
Won't be free to. Nothing about legalization means employers still won't be free to drug test and not hire people who use marijuana.
Exactly.
If it was legal, you think they can do that and say if you smoke marijuana, we can't hire you?
Absolutely.
That's not considered discriminatory then.
It's their business. if they own their business.
Oh, wait, the government runs the businesses today. I have a business. I run nothing.
In a perfect world, that's the way it should be. Yeah.
Before I say good morning to my employees, I have to check the federal regulations. That's the way it goes today.
Yeah.
So, let's not be naive about it. It's horrible out there.
Yeah, companies have those policies in place.
Right.
I don't think that would change.
And a person that does smoke marijuana can choose not to apply at a place that doesn't, that's their right.
Right. Now, but the question is, if in fact marijuana was legalized, would more people be smoking marijuana on the job? Yes or no? And then how do you respond to it? Dak, you have an answer to that, or Jeff?
How about Jeff? We haven't heard from Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, where are you?
I'm here.
All right, Jeff.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you very loud and clear. If, in fact, marijuana was made legal, all right, would more people be on the job smoking marijuana or less?
Well, that's an impossible fortune-telling question.
Well, that's why I asked a fortune teller,
I just know how I feel about this subject, and my opinion is that it's really competency testing that would improve performance at work. I don't think that it's logical, if we're wanting to improve our population's work performance, to discriminate based on something that could have occurred 30 days ago with marijuana, the least impairing of the controlled substances even right after using it. That is just discriminating against people and actually causing people to not be eligible for many of the industries and positions that they are very skilled at for our workforce.
But from your research, from your research,
no,
do you have any inkling of whether or not marijuana use would increase if legalized or decrease? There's got to be some research that's been done.
Well, I think you would have a spike because a lot of people who, no matter what the law is, the person who's just a straight line person who obeys the law, so they, even if they have desired to try marijuana or they tried it in the past but they don't want to break the law now as they got older especially, I say, well, sure, you're going to have some people trying it again, maybe using it more because they are just a straight law-abiding citizen. Okay, but I think that spike would suddenly decline because the novelty would wear off. Some people, my hypothesis would be some people would decide they don't like it like they used to. The honeymoon would pass. And then a certain number of people, I believe, as you mentioned, I like to call it the naughty syndrome, naughty. There's a thrill to doing something that one has been forbidden to do, especially when it's obvious that a lot of the criticisms of it were incorrect. So someone wants to be even more defiant when they feel like you're lying to them. I think that applies to a lot of young people who may be constant marijuana users.
Yeah.
I think that you would get a reduction there. So really, I believe there would be an equilibrium pretty quickly. And the intoxication level of marijuana, well, often when someone claims, the gateway theory about marijuana leading to other things, I think that philosophy is ridiculous. And usually the way I respond is, no, most people probably try marijuana first because marijuana is the best. so obviously you're going to try the best if you can. That is, of course, if someone hasn't made it difficult to get the best, which may result in you trying something else if you're feeling like a thrill. When I say it's the best, I mean it is the best for you. Compared to all the popular recreationally used substances. And getting back to the work thing, I support competency testing. I don't think it matters what somebody does during their free time. I think we need to determine whether they can safely and effectively perform their job description when they step onto the work site that day through some computer simulations or other activities that are required before they're allowed to work.
Okay,
And that way, whether they have
We have somebody
Whether they
on
have
we
flu.
have someone on line. Excuse me, we have to cut off because we
Yeah,
have someone on line 2. Let's take line 2. Bill, are you there?
I apologize.
Don't go away.
Yeah,
Bill.
I'm here.
Okay, Bill, what say you?
Well, I just have a few questions here. I don't hear a lot of facts here, and I don't want to argue anything on moral or religious grounds. Let's just forget about that. I want to know about all your guests. Now, are they all marijuana users?
Are we all?
Yeah. Are you marijuana users?
That's a good question.
I can answer that. No.
No. Okay.
No, I am not.
Okay. All right.
I
There's
used to
2
be one
no's.
time,
Oh, you're not.
but I'm
Okay.
not a guest.
All right.
I'm a typical law-abiding citizen.
No, and a lot of people, I've gotten this, especially after my op-ed in the Tulsa World. People say, "Oh, you're just looking for an excuse to smoke." No, I'm not, because I don't. But
It's a liberty issue.
it is a liberty issue.
I suggest, you know what? I'm gonna suggest something, that you get some facts straight, because it doesn't sound like you have any facts right now. I want to know if you know about the environmental impact of marijuana grows in the United States. Do you know anything about that?
It could provide a whole lot of product.
What do you mean by that, caller? Bill, what do you mean by that?
The environmental impact and how it's destroying the environment, these illegal grow sites.
Oh,
Marijuana
you
isn't
mean
destroying the environment?
Well, I don't
You mean all
understand.
the petroleum being used, flying helicopters around, and all the noise pollution from that,
Oh,
and
this
all
is
the
great.
petroleum.
You guys are. This is
for
classic.
cars
You guys
driving
are
in
classic.
circles.
You don't want to. You don't even have an objective view of your own issue. Here, let me tell you some facts here about, and this is from the Department of Forestry. During California's growth season, outdoor growth consumes 60 million gallons of water a day, 50% more than is used by all of the residents of San Francisco. All right, you think California has that kind of water to spare? They don't. They do not. And you know what? There isn't any argument that I can say that you'd ever agree to. Your view is so myopic. It's unbelievable.
Can't hear it. It's right
Unbelievable. And not based on any other fact other than you want to get high.
Yeah.
And you think it's cool with you and your friends. It's just baloney.
Does it
is complete
use
baloney.
water? What's the problem with water?
Yeah,
You
Corley,
mean growing the
correct your
the
phone,
weed?
Corley.
Yeah,
You're breaking up on us. I'm not hanging up on you. You're breaking up on us. I want you to know that. So we're only catching some partial words
Get
there.
a
We know
landline.
what you're saying.
A landline, maybe.
Yeah, and I was just wondering. You're saying that the cost in natural resources to grow marijuana is very
the
high.
Cost in natural resources. Not only that, but the pesticides they use and the rodenticides they use in the forest is killing off the natural resources. They're
Okay.
blocking off dams for natural fisheries.
Where's this guy coming
They're
from?
killing all kinds of wildlife, and that's one small part of it. The other thing they don't want to talk about is the sociological impact. A study at Yale University says that people between the ages of 18 and 25 are 2.5 times more likely to try prescription painkillers if they use marijuana first. That's a fact. That's Yale University. What I hear is because it's the best. Give me a break, man. At least get your facts straight, or get some kind of facts other than you like to get stoned. It's baloney.
Okay.
All right, you
Okay,
made your
Corley.
point, buddy.
We're going to give our experts here an opportunity to
To
respond
respond.
to you. Okay. Thank you very much for
yeah,
calling.
man, it's cool. Let's get high. That's what they're going to respond.
All right.
Just don't even ask.
Okay,
Don't
caller.
even
I
ask.
thought you were
It doesn't
talking
matter.
about facts.
Listen, we love you
I haven't heard
anyway.
anyone-
Thanks for calling Liberty Talk Radio.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
everybody's got a good
Okay.
opinion.
Well, you have any response to that? I mean, we could have gone on for an hour.
Sure.
Right.
We don't do that.
Well, that's not really even the issue right now. Dax, would you like to address that?
Well, I'd start out by saying, hey, I think it's cool. Let's get high. That's what I want to do.
That's what he accuses you of.
I mean, first of all, the argument about the environmental impact, I think he's sorely mistaken. The marijuana, the hemp plant itself is exactly the opposite of that. It's a very robust plant. It doesn't require a lot of pesticides to grow. In Oklahoma, in a climate like ours, we could have 2 and 3 grow harvest of it a year, and just from an industrial standpoint, that would be a boom in and of itself. So if California doesn't have enough water to grow marijuana, maybe the maybe Oklahoma would benefit from growing some here too.
Yeah, but you don't think that the marijuana is going to push out some other much more needed plants like lettuce or something like that, and as a result, we're going to have a shortage of green vegetables.
Well, nobody says that about corn mash to make the liquor. I mean, come on.
The market will determine the supply of whatever product is in demand, and marijuana is useful for many things, so I'd expect it to push out some crop.
Yeah. Well, you can use cannabis for any product that you can make from timber or cotton or petroleum.
That's true.
So the idea that would reduce market share for some other more, I would say, environmentally damaging products, big deal. That's a good thing.
Well, let me take your side of the argument, and let me argue with myself a little bit. In fact, that because the government now has this ethanol program, I mean, millions of acres of farmland are going to making ethanol, which is subsidized by the government with processing plants that are run by government shrills, people who are aligned with the government. They're getting kickbacks, sending money back to Washington so they can run for office. I mean, and people around the world are starving, and those plants take a tremendous amount of water where this would not. So I agree with that. I'm on the same page with that 100%.
Joe, one of the things I want to ask our guests is, do you get any pushback from the liquor industry? I mean, you're a competition of, if marijuana came on the scene and people would maybe say, well, I don't like to drink wine like I used to. I'm going to have a marijuana cigarette tonight. That would be competition, correct? Have you any pushback from that industry?
Yes. I have actually read a lot of articles about that regarding the alcohol industry. No, of course. I mean, this would be a great competition to them. So
have you received any static from them saying, no, keep it
not
illegal?
Me personally, no. Not
I
this
think
organization
they're keeping it
personally.
undercover.
Okay. All right. Here's another question. No, this one writer says this. He said, we lost the war on drugs. He talks about all the wars. He said, we also lost the war on bank robbery. We lost the war on child abuse, and we've been fighting for at least 6,000 years. And he said, we don't give up on those wars. Why should we give up on the war on cannabis? Well, I don't agree with, but I think
child abuse and bank robbery have victims in that crime. It is a crime. If someone wants to use cannabis either to treat their disorder, their illness, or their pain, and they're not harming anyone else, they have the absolute right to do so. If they decide to use it instead of drinking a glass of wine at the end of the day, then they have the right to do so.
You're going to have abuse of everything.
Because he brings up the war on car theft. He says his Buick was stolen. Never buy a Buick. Anyway, but let's see. And he talks about...
well, how are those wars anyway?
They're not really wars. The bank robbery, obviously there's a victim there.
Right.
You're right. And we lost the war on fighting...
now, there's
murder, obviously, there's a victim. And, all the other wars he's talking about, you're right, are victim crimes. This is a victimless...
I don't believe that's a victim. I disagree. If somebody abuses marijuana or alcohol or any substance, there are victims, okay? That's a fact. So you can't just say it's a victimless thing. We have to have people who make decisions responsibly for liberty, and that I'm going to choose what's good and right for me. Now, if that infringes on somebody else's right, then we have laws, that if, in other words, they neglect their children because they're high all the time, there's laws for that. Just like if they were doing alcohol. I mean, you're getting off of the point. The point is people ought to be able to decide for themselves what kind of, either for medicinal purposes or for recreational purposes, what they were to do. That's liberty.
I'm
That's really the bottom line.
I think his point is that it's going to affect other people adversely, although you're happy as a clam.
Well, right now,
that's his point.
Right now, the war on drugs has created more victims.
More pain.
I know.
Than,
I agree.
I agree.
That's right. Fathers wind up going to jail. Yep. Can't support their children. Their
children growing up without a father in the home.
Father with the home. Yep. Yeah, and we don't count those. Those are the indirect,
consequences.
Here's another one now. Let's say they said if we crack down on the war on smoking because it's harmful to your lungs and it's harmful, whatever, etc.
We shouldn't even be
bad for
involved
you.
in that, though.
And he says, if we're cracking down on and people agree that, smoking is bad for you, why should we include another smoking product into the equation?
So why should we ask the government to take care of us? Is the nanny state? Do we use the government as a weapon to keep other people from doing what they choose to do?
That's the issue right there.
That's the answer.
Self-ownership.
I'm waiting for the war on sugar. I'm ready to fight.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sugar is a lot
Michelle
more harmful.
Obama is all over that. I mean,
Or
that's the
high
next
fructose
thing.
corn syrup. That's even worse.
Yes.
I have a war with sugar every day. I grab that cookie, and after I eat, I thought, I really shouldn't have had that.
Yeah, I got really hurt with sugar the other day. A girl came up to me and said, "Hi, sugar." My wife punched me in the head. All right, that was a bad joke. Bad joke. People forget about that.
I wanted to ask the lady and Dax and Jeff. Big Pharma has got to play a role in keeping marijuana from being legalized because it is medicinal. Do you guys
tell us about some of that medicinal stuff?
Joanne?
A medicinal, well, one thing about the caller or the emailer or whatever, the caller mentioned pesticides, and it made me think of the ability to grow cannabis in your backyard. If it was me, if I was growing it in my backyard, I wouldn't use pesticide, and that would be great for me because I eat organic.
Yeah,
so,
organic.
But yeah, and whenever we were talking earlier about the children who are suffering, I don't know if everyone understands what that issue is about. The children who suffer from seizures, those seizures can be treated with drugs, but the parents or the children who are receiving the pharmaceutical drugs are not seeing the results. They're having hundreds of seizures per day. And seizures cause a lot of brain damage. And so in Colorado, they can use CBD oil, which is non-psychoactive cannabis. It's just it's on the spectrum, but it's, down on the high in the CBD, low in the THC, and it treats seizures. So when we talk about children, I don't know if everybody out there understands, we're talking not about children lighten up.
There's good results for that?
Absolutely, yeah, and we're talking about a very small, like a teaspoon maybe, of an oil that they just take, and, they're not smoking. And, it calms their seizures tremendously. I mean, it's not 100%. But you're talking about a drastic reduction.
But better than the synthetic drugs from the pharmaceutical company.
The synthetic drugs actually cause the children to be sit there stoned. And when they're on the CBD, they're living life, playing, being normal children. They actually regain their life. And that's my point, is that our current policy in Oklahoma regarding drug laws is anti-family and anti-life. And as a pro-life, pro-family conservative, it infuriates me.
So you're a conservative, and you're on this side of the issue. That's pretty cool.
Oh, I'm absolutely conservative.
That's pretty cool. You don't find that. Everybody stereotypes, like the guy did, you just want to get high, and you're just a hippie, high person, crazy, druggie. But you don't even use, and you see that this is a liberty issue.
I feel like it's an attack on personal liberty, and I'm for personal responsibility, and I don't want the government micromanaging me or anyone.
Amen, sister. I like that.
Yeah, well,
Can I say one thing about the medical?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, by the way, we have about 2 minutes, so if you can make it brief, so we'd like to give you an opportunity to close the program.
At least above 90% of the medical marijuana patients, where it's available, are using it for conditions related to cancer, mostly to relieve the often negative side effects of chemotherapy. And the basic mechanism of chemotherapy, as I understand it, is we hope that the cancer cells die first because they're more susceptible to the chemicals, and then your cells survive, and that's why people are often pushed to the brink of death. So here this is accepted medicine, one of the number one treatments for various forms of cancer. We accept that as medicine, and it almost kills people. But then we say something is not medicinal that relieves those side effects and makes the person respond to the treatment better and be more comfortable. That, to me, is the whole issue. How ridiculous!
Right?
How can we do that? How can we do that to people?
Yeah, it's come to the point where we cannot think clearly about it. We have about 1 minute. I'd like to give you 30 seconds to tell our audience, gals, about your organization, how they may reach you and become part of your
Okay, sure. Well, they can find us on Facebook, Drug Policy Reform Network of Oklahoma. I also have an email, dprnok1@gmail.com. They may also call me at 918-609-3095. And I just want to sum up real quickly. Judge Andrew Napolitano said it beautifully. The war on drugs is a failure on every level, moral, constitutional, and economic. I would like to say it has very little with getting high and everything to do with individual rights, morality, and justice.
Okay, thank you so much for being our guest. Folks, we'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. This is Joe Cristiano. You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. Stay well, stay tuned.